Hi, this is Ms. Pink, and my friends call me Pink. Welcome to tonight's reading of Rapunzel. The brothers Grimm published this story, and they were great brothers. They even lived together as adults, and they collected folk stories and fairy tales and stories that were passed down from parents to children by word of mouth. And they decided to put them in a book. And tonight I've decided to read to you the story of Rapunzel. So I hope you'll enjoy. Once upon a time there lived a man and his wife. The one thing they lacked was a child. Now at the top of their house there was a little room in which overlooked a beautiful walled garden. In it grew the loveliest flowers and the most luscious fruits and vegetables. But the wall around was high, and even worse, the garden belonged to a witch. One day the wife noticed a bed planted with a special kind of fresh green lettuce, known as Rapunzel. How she longed to taste it. Very soon she could think of nothing else. Day by day she grew paler and thinner, until she had dwindled into a shadow of herself. And no other food could tempt her. Nothing at all. Her husband was alarmed to see her fading away. "Wife, wife," he said, "what is troubling you?" "It is the Rapunzel in that garden," she replied. "I shall die unless I have some to eat." "What's to be done?" thought the good man. "If she must have it, she must, witch or no witch." So that very evening he scrambled over the high wall, stealthily pulled up a bunch, and brought it back to his wife. Oh, she was overjoyed. She made it into a salad, and crunch, crunch, crunch. How delicious! In a minute there was nothing, not even a shred left. Next day she craved for the same salad even more. There was nothing else she would eat. What could her husband do? Again he waited until dusk and climbed into the magic garden. He bent down to pick up a quick handful of the Rapunzel. But what a fright awaited him! There, standing over him, was the witch herself, wild with rage. "Thief!" she cried. "You'll regret it." "Forgive me," begged the poor man, and he told her of his wife's greatest longing for the leaves. The witch grew calmer as she listened. "Very well," she said at last. "You may take as much as you need, but on one condition. As soon as your wife has a child, you must give that child to me. It will be well looked after, I promise you." Well, the man was so relieved that the witch had not worked some dreadful spell on him that he quickly agreed to the bargain. Sure enough, when the wife gave birth to a beautiful baby girl soon afterward, the witch arrived promptly to claim her debt. "Rapunzel shall be her name," she declared, and she carried the child away. What a beautiful girl she grew up to be. But when she was 12 years old, the witch shut her up high in a tower, far away in a wood. A tower that had neither a door nor a staircase, only a tiny window at the top. Whenever the witch came to visit her, she would call up to the window, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." For Rapunzel had wonderful long golden hair, which she wore in thick plaits. Each time she heard the witch's call, she would wind the plaits around the hook on the window ledge and let them fall all the way down to the ground. The witch would then seize and climb up until she reached the window. Some years passed, and one day a young prince was riding through the wood. He heard the sound of a sweet singing, and he followed the voice until he found himself at the foot of a tall tower. But there was no door. Who was the singer? Whoever it was, the voice was so enchanting that the prince came day after day to listen. One evening, from his hiding place behind a tree, the prince saw a strange woman emerge from the wood and stand at the foot of the tower. There she called out these words, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." At once the great length of golden hair slid to the ground, and the woman hauled herself up the window. "Aha," thought the prince. "A ladder for one, it's a ladder for another." So the next evening he too stood at the foot of the tower and called up, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." Immediately the shining hair fell to his feet, and the prince climbed up and up until he reached the window at the top. At first, Rapunzel was alarmed when the prince appeared, for she had never seen anyone before but the witch. But he talked to her so kindly that she soon lost her fear. "Your singing brought me here," said the prince. "I listened so often," and he begged her to escape and be his wife. "I will gladly come," said Rapunzel, "but how can it be done?" At last they thought of a plan. Every night the prince would bring a skein of silk. Rapunzel would weave this into a ladder. When it was long enough to reach the ground, she would climb down, and away they would ride together. Each night, the silken ladder grew longer, and each day Rapunzel hid it well. But one day she made a dreadful mistake. "Tell me, mother," she said, "why do you climb so slowly up the window? The prince is here quick as lightning." Oh, what had she said? The witch was in a frenzy. "You have had a visitor?" she hissed. "I thought I had kept you from the world, but you have deceived me. Well, there's an answer to that." She snatched up the pair of scissors, grasped the thick hair, and in the other hand, and snip, snap, the golden hair fell and covered the floor. Then the witch woman dragged the poor girl off into the forest wilderness and left her there to live on berries and nuts as best she could. Back in the tower, the witch picked up the severed hair and wound it around a hook. She did not have to wait long. Far below came the call, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." The golden hair came down. The prince climbed up, but imagine his horror when the window came into view. There he beheld not the lovely Rapunzel, but the mocking face of the witch. "Ha!" she cried, "so you've come for my daughter. But you are too late. The bird has flown. You'll never see her again." She burst into laughter, and the prince, maddened by shock and despair, leaped from the window to the ground. Down, down. He was not killed, for a great bush of thorns broke his fall, but the thorns pierced his eyes and had made him blind. Sadly, he wandered back and forth through the land, through the forest, thinking only of the beautiful girl who should have become his bride. Many months, perhaps even years, had passed when by chance the prince wandered into the wilderness that was now Rapunzel's home. She lived there in utter poverty with two little twins, a boy and a girl. Suddenly he stopped. That voice, that singing, who could it be but his Rapunzel? He moved toward the sound. Rapunzel saw him and twined her in her arms, tears running down her face. Two of the tears fell onto the prince's eyes. Wonderful! He could see. So they made a joyful return to his kingdom, where they lived happily ever after. Have a wonderful evening, and from my family to your family, keep pushing play.